The Montreal Canadiens are in a pretty interesting spot. They've got quite a few assets that you could say they may not really need too much at the moment. You see, Kent Hughes has built this team in such a way where I think most fans can agree that the goal for the Montreal Canadiens at this point is to slowly get comfortable with the guys that are already in this organization, to develop some of their younger talent and eventually mold them into NHL studs. They have younger guys that are already in the league and are already growing and getting better and slowly allowing this team to enter that competitive window. But it may take, let's say, a year or two before guys like Ivan Demidov and Slafkovsky and Caulfield are really on the team making a significant impact. But when you think about that future, you have to sort of compartmentalize it into a few different territories. What are the Canadiens' goals in the short-term future? And how do those goals change as you go into the mid-term future and eventually long-term future? I think it's fair to say that with the Habs' prospect young forward core in place like it is right now, it's a pretty reasonable idea to say that the guys in the top six will round itself out in the long term as follows: Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Kirby Dach, Yuri Slafkovsky, Ivan Demidov, and maybe one other name, a Laine or something. Somebody to fill in that extra spot. It also would be fair to assume that for the Canadiens, they don't really need to go and wait for that final guy to be drafted and developed. They could probably make some sort of a trade. They could probably get a guy who is in the early 20s range right now and not need to wait a few extra years for another 18-year-old guy to eventually become that. You can only have so many Ivan Demidovs who can make significant impacts right away, right? So with all this in mind, let's go out there onto an article on Montreal Hockey Now, published by Marco D'Amico from yesterday, that talks about how the Montreal Canadiens could very well put themselves in a spot to use one of their surplus assets like this to get their guy. Calgary rebuild could prompt the Canadiens to dangle a pick in a trade. D'Amico goes out there and talks about the Montreal Canadiens trade that they had made with the Calgary Flames, wherein the Habs acquired the first-round pick of Calgary's in 2025. Owning both the Canadiens and the Flames first-rounders for the next draft, it would be the fourth draft in a row that the Canadiens would go late into June with 2 picks in the top 32. The Habs initially acquired a conditional first-round pick from Calgary in the ever-so-confusing Sean Monahan trade in the 2022 summer period. When Calgary was still a middle-of-the-pack team in the NHL, the prospect of receiving a draft pick within the first 11 to 17 picks of the 2025 draft was a very real possibility. However, Calgary's recent teardown and surprising turn to rebuilding has changed the outlook and could alter the Canadiens' strategy with the pick they acquired almost 2 years ago. The article then goes into an entire conversation simplifying what exactly the trade details were of that Sean Monahan trade, but essentially, the Habs are getting a pick, we just don't know which pick it is right now, between Calgary's or Florida's in 2025. It's an entire thing that works with the other trades that have happened. It's very confusing. That's it. There are a lot of other things to go out there and think about and the stipulations that apply to the trade, but this is it. Montreal's got that first. But when it comes to the Calgary Flames, things changed quite a bit over the past few years. The Flames are now a lot worse, and as a result, the 2024-2025 Flames will look very different in September than they did a year ago. The departures of Chris Tanev, Noah Hanifin, Lindholm, Markstrom, Mangiapane, and Zadorov, they all changed things for the worst in terms of team quality and performance. So, with this in mind, Marco D'Amico writes here that unless the Calgary Flames have a real resurgence and finish outside the bottom 10 next season, the Canadiens will be getting Florida's 2025 first-round pick, which will probably slot between 20th and 32nd overall. The article then takes an interesting turn. Banking on the struggling Flames to likely continue to falter and further their veteran fire sale throughout the upcoming season, the Montreal Canadiens could look to flip this pick for a more proven asset. They're still on the lookout for some help in their top 6 this summer, and remain patient to find the right deal, and Calgary/Florida's first-rounder could be a piece in a big move. For the Canadiens, another late first would be more of the same. They've had one in each of the last 3 drafts. Of those 3 selections, only one of them was used to draft a guy, Philip Machar. The other 2 were either traded to move up in the draft for Michael Hage, or traded for a promising youngster like Alex Newhook. With the Montreal Canadiens looking to take the next step in their rebuild, and as the Flames get set to start their own, it almost seems like a foregone conclusion that this pick will not make it to 2025's June draft. It's simply a matter of when. So essentially, the soul of this article is saying that because the Montreal Canadiens are probably likely to get themselves a later round pick in 2025's draft because of the Calgary Flames rebuild, would it not be more easy for Montreal and Kent Hughes to trade the pick away and get an asset that's a lot more proven and that could actually step into the lineup right now, make an impact or do some damage and grow alongside of these other young pieces? This is yet another one of these things that the Montreal Canadiens have that they could expend. An extra 2025 first that could be in the second half of the first round alongside of, let's say, a defenseman or two that they have, and maybe another prospect. Is that the package that gets a deal done for a pretty significant younger player that the Canadiens can use right now? Because, of course, when you think about drafts and how these guys are developing, everybody's talking about guys like, Michael Hage, drafted by the Canadiens this previous draft. He's so good. Philip Machar, taken 2 years ago. It's fine and dandy to have as many young pieces as you want, but at some point you're going to need to wait for them to make the team. A guy like Michael Hage is great, but he's probably not going to be an NHL player until maybe 2027. And so if you wanted to keep this pick around, do you want to wait even further to get that guy onto your team and actually be an effective player? Or could you just trade away this pick right now, you don't really need it, and get another player that is already a little bit older, faltering on their team, is in a spot where they need a change of scenery? Everybody talks about McGroarty, Kent Johnson, who had just gotten re-signed, Patty Laine, a lot of Columbus guys, so there are interesting conversations to explore when it comes to this trade idea, and I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below if this makes sense. If the Canadiens have it in their best interests to trade away the first-round pick they had gotten in that Sean Monahan trade. Might I remind you, this pick was free. They traded for Sean Monahan because Calgary didn't want him anymore. They wanted to free up that money and they wanted to go on a run, which almost worked. I mean, they beat the Dallas Stars in round 1, Johnny Gaudreau overtime winner in game 7, but then they lost to Edmonton and then the team was underperforming and then everybody left and it was really, really bad. Johnny Gaudreau started everything, honestly. So for the Calgary Flames, because they put all those extra stipulations in place with the Monahan trade 2 years ago, now it's like, okay, well, we don't know where the pick is going to be. The Calgary Flames are probably going to be pretty bad next season, so their own 2025 first-round pick is probably not going over to Montreal. Instead, it's likely going to be something in the lower tier range of the first round, and it's probably going to be Florida's pick. So, does this pick stay or does this pick go? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If there is a main particular target that you think the Canadiens should have in trading away these young assets, either a defenseman or the pick itself, let me know your thoughts as well. What do you think about a McGroarty? What do you think about a Kent Johnson? What do you think about a Necas? There are a bunch of guys that we have been repeating over and over and over again, but if there's anybody else that you think should be on the radar, I'm thinking maybe an underrated Cole Perfetti-like asset or a Marco Rossi in Minnesota. Let me know your thoughts as to where you think the Canadiens should go with this trade conversation. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.